Good afternoon, everyone. Just gonna wait a couple more minutes to allow more people to join us on both the stream and on Zoom. And then we'll start today's open discussion. All right. Let's go ahead and start today's open discussion. Welcome, everyone, to Open Discussion and Various Topics, Class 109. Let's begin by reciting the prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll move into our Q&A session. But as per usual, feel free to ask any questions or post any comments you may have in the chat. If you're joining us via YouTube, if you're joining us on Zoom, you can also use the raise hand feature to ask your questions audibly. Glad to address those for you. Let's begin reciting the prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll move right into the open discussion. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. For discussion and various topics. I believe last time we finished up a discussion on mudras. I'm sorry, not mudras, mantra. The power of mantra, a little bit of discussion on the science of mantra, and we also looked at one of the diagrams that Nehemiah put together, illustrating the hand, the count that we use when we're performing mantra japa, the significance of the fingers, the elements that they represent, and how we can use that count with the hand. It was a 16 count, 4 on each, count of 4 on each finger. Do go back and take a look at our last open discussion, last 3 open discussions. I believe we did that discussion over 3 open discussion sessions. All the material that was presented in that discussion were either taken from previous classes that Nehemiah had done on mantra, as well as the initiation recording of mantra by Dr. George King, and also a large part of the text we looked at as well came from the inaugural text by Sir Nehemiah Davis called The Ancient Language of the Soul, which you should now be seeing on your screen. This is I believe we took a lot of information from chapters 7 and 8 We did do a study session. In fact, our very first study session recording was on the reading of this book. So you can go back to that playlist. I read through, I think each video is a chapter. I cover it chapter by chapter, read through the entire book, Ancient Language of the Soul. I still encourage you to go back and pick up a copy for your own study to help you better understand the ancient language of the soul, the mystic knowledge of mantra. So we did have a couple of questions that were emailed to us, and you too can send us some of your questions via email at any time. And if you allow us, we can answer them during an open discussion session, or you can send us an email and we'll answer and address any issues you have privately to either Mystic Knowledge Center, all one word, at gmail.com, or you can email Mr. Davis, that's teacher, privately. I believe that's mysticlessons@gmail.com. Is that correct, anyone?
Yes, that's correct.
So you can email Mr. Davis privately, personally, at Mystic Lessons, or you can email us, the Mystic Knowledge Center, IMKC, at mysticknowledgecenter@gmail.com, and we'll get either questions or comments or anything you need within our power addressed for you. Do we have any questions, comments? Start us off today. All the chat windows open. Well, if there's no questions yet, shall I go into the ones that were emailed to us?
Yeah, you could, I guess.
All right, the first question says, many people I've heard, when they project from the body, go up into space and look down at Earth. If I project from the body into a different realm and then go up into space and look back at Earth, look back at the Earth, does it look different depending upon which realm you are on? And for example, dark and smoky in the lowest realms and more beautiful on the highest realms?
Yes, it does look different from each realm, in my opinion. So, in fact, one of the things you realize is the geographical difference. At least I do. Maybe because I'm kind of an artist, and I picturize things and see them and see them in shapes. So yes, it is different. And then also the amount of light is different, is different. The rotation of the earth on those rims is different. There's a lot of different things if you make yourself aware of it. Some people, most people is not aware of it. I have to say that majority of people are not aware of it because most people live in the moment and they don't see the intricate details. And it depends on the level of concentration, contemplation they have too. So all of that account for that. But and then I'd say another thing too, when you do project, it's not going into space so much as going up into the upper atmosphere. Because most people cannot enter into the space simply because of the ring pass knot that Madame Blavatsky talked about way back in 1872 in the Theosophical Society, the way they described the ring pass knot. I think many people came after her, and further explained it. Before her, it was explained in various documents throughout history from different parts of the world. But I think she gave the most clear and the most detailed explanation of it in 1872, and then it was expanded on by other people that came behind her, that came after her. So yes, that's if you go up into the upper atmosphere, you'll notice a difference between the physical realm and the other southern realms. And each southern realm, you'll notice a difference if you do that. Hope that answer your question.
Okay, the next question says, why karmically on some planets are the few allowed to dominate the many? I think it was 3 black magicians on Garuch, and Dr. King said something like 13 individuals on this earth.
Did he say 13 individuals? I don't think it was 13 individuals.
I think it said that it was the 12.
It was 12, yeah.
Yeah, and then one other who had split himself up, the one that was transmuted in Carmelite.
Yeah, but it was actually 12 individuals on the physical plane he talked about.
Yes.
And I think the Tibetan that was speaking through Madame Blavatsky, she talked about 12 too. She talked about he that spoke through her broke it up as Occidental and Oriental or something like that.
I think that 6 in the east and 6 in the west.
Yeah, 6 in the and that these were very powerful black musicians or whatever. Unfortunately, most people walk around in a daze, and I mean, a majority of us suffer from some type of mental illness that we're not even aware of, into many, many lifetimes pass us by. So we are taking care of the needs of our immediate needs, which is nothing wrong with that. And we don't forecast, we're not aware of our environment. We're not aware of the things that lead us to one place to the next. That's why people who do get into leadership and they know how to push the masses of people in one direction by just by saying simple things. They do it, and they gain this great power that later on they will suffer for it, because you cannot affect the lives of people like that for long and you not feel the impact. So it's wrong. But magic is not that is not hard to understand. So-called the mystics say that magic is applied knowledge in action. And the reason why you call it magic is because you cannot, most people, they can't define all the details. They just know that it works. So that's why most people have not been waking up. They're not aware of their surroundings. They're not aware of their full consciousness, and they rather follow than lead. And it's not that the Black musicians are allowed to. There's just everybody has a free will. They allow somebody to lead them. That's just my opinion on that subject.
And the third question. It seems that AIs, or artificial intelligence, and machines are evolving at faster and faster rates, and that man will inevitably become reliant on machines. But Dr. George King says that if that ever happened, then humanity is doomed. He has seen it on other planets. Can we stop this outcome? Or what did he mean? And can we stop this outcome?
Do you remember where he referenced that?
No, not exactly. No.
No, I don't know. I really can't speak to what Dr. King said on that. I mean, I know he spoke about it in the Moss story, but a little bit, but no, but I don't know. He had to give me more content on that so I could speak. I can't speak to what Dr. King was talking about. But I can talk about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is an extension of our intelligence. So eventually, as mankind evolve and his consciousness expand and he takes control of his consciousness, then he will extend his consciousness to assist lower life forms. And the same way we, because everything is about service, the same way we extend our consciousness when we design something to benefit a mass group of people, like a chair or a bicycle or a car. That's it. That is, in the mystic understanding, that is someone expanding their consciousness to create a level of comfort or assistance to allow someone to better their life, to manage their time, to grow towards whatever goal they're growing to, because it's a tool that can be used. But someone had to expand their consciousness enough in order to give design and for lack of word, creation to that design on the particular plane of existence they're working on. So everything around us is the consciousness of someone, is the consciousness where someone expanded their consciousness in order to help. And all minerals, all things are alive, but we give a little bit of ourselves in order to allow them. Now in science, scientists begin to understand this, but they haven't learned to accept it the way the mystics do. The scientists will talk about chemical bonding, where if I touch something, there's an exchange of atoms or electrons between me and that thing. The mystics have said for thousands of years that exchange is an expansion of our consciousness, because everything is consciousness. So we leave a little bit of ourselves in everything that we're touched. And when we do that in a conscious, strategic, detailed manner, then we tend to benefit the world, society, and the world. So artificial intelligence is not evil. Is the motive behind how you use the artificial intelligence that can become evil. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Can you hear me all right, Dwayne?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. I think he might have been referencing something you heard in the alien mission lectures. I'm not sure, but I can't remember where Dr. George King specifically said what he wrote there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Following on from that, question 4, Dr. King also said that the creator is always greater than that which he creates. But what about AIs which develop self-learning capabilities and become greater than their creators? Just answer that.
I don't know if it may appear that way, but I don't think it's that way. So, one of the things we have to realize, and I think Dr. King stated this, and one of the Cosmic Masters stated that one of the greatest aspects of consciousness is feeling, the ability to feel. So, because be able to feel something or communicate something from someone else and give expression to that and attach emotion to that on multiple levels, that's a sentient being. So, AI, artificial intelligence, at least right now here on this earth, we don't see that. And if I'm wrong, tell me. But but that's not something we have reached. So that's what the mystics tell us, that feeling is a part, comes from sentient beings, come from a highly intelligent beings. So to process feeling in a proper way only have us to reach the levels of adeptship and mastership by being able to do that. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, those were all the questions that were emailed. Are there any other questions? Let's see what else.
So we have no more questions, Dwayne?
No, I don't see any coming in.
So
Those
what
were
you plan on going into today?
I had some questions on the yesterday. The Dear Society held the commemoration for the first bridge push of modern times, and in that commemoration, they played a transmission by Mars Sector 6. And I wanted to transcribe it so I can have it ready for today. I don't think I'd be allowed to play it. It's not without permission. So I don't have the transcription ready. But let's see, generally speaking, there were a lot of things because they had played the transmission, they had played a video recording of a lecture that Dr. George King gave about satellite number 3. And he was talking about the different size ships they have, and since satellite number 3 is about 1300 or 13,000, 13,000 feet across. And one of the larger motherships is 5,000 miles across, and they're saying it can move in various velocities. And one of the velocities is that it can move through time. And it can send an object or itself from one end of the galaxy to another and guarantee its arrival. He emphasized that a couple times. And he went into a little bit describing what it meant, what he meant by move through time, but he didn't get too deep into it. And I was curious if you can describe that a little bit, what it means for a vessel of that, or not necessarily, that's just to move through time in general, because Mars Sector 6 does that too in the Day the Gods Came. The Prime Initiation of Earth talks about moving energies and moving time backwards and forwards by, I guess, a few seconds or so, but just wanted you to discuss that a little bit.
That's too deep to go into.
Okay.
So I mean, you know, I have my theories of that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's too deep to go into. But we have to realize that even here on Earth, um, if you project from your body and go to one realm, you might be going back in time, and you go to another realm, you might be going into the future. So even here on this Earth, so that's one way to look at it. When you shift from one realm to the next, you moving through time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you want to manipulate time, that's one way of manipulating time. I mean, simply by you looking up into the sky in one direction, you looking back in time, and you look in another direction, and you looking in a different time zone, and you know, so because why? Because how light travels. So when you move to some of the realms, time is accelerated because the Earth may spin differently on that particular realm
Mm-hmm.
because of the molecules of that particular realm, or the atoms, how close they are together, and how they, you know, how they move and how they must move because of the amount of energy that's given to them. You know, so that's just one way to try to begin to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to hear exactly what he's talking about to try to give my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think I heard that lecture back in the 80s. I think it was the 80s.
I think, yeah, I think it was in the 80s because he was seated in the temple, and there are video recording. I don't remember how many lectures they had video recorded, but on to the right of him was an illustration of the solar system, and he was saying he had it was a very busy time, and there are many. He went back to Santa Barbara, and they're doing many mental transmissions, expanding missions, double missions, and I remember him. Was he had asked Mars Sector 6 to do an assessment of the image of the solar system that man has created, and he said on Mars Sector 6 said on 3 dimensions they had found 48 errors with our depiction of the solar system, and he said one of the two big ones was the missing of the planet that orbits opposite of the sun from the Earth, and he said the second major error he didn't go into. But he said Mars Sector 6 asked if he wanted him to give a report on the fourth dimensional analysis of the chart, and he said no, don't bother, because that would just be too much. But there was something in the transmission that really shook and frightened me, and that's what I really wanted to ask questions on. I'm not going to be able to quote it verbatim because I wanted to have that written, but Dr. George King first opened up and said that there was an emergency energy release for the Mother Earth. And he said that the lords of karma had looked into time and saw that the Mother Earth was due to die. And so the lords of karma, Mars Sector 6 and others, petitioned to bring satellite number 3 into known orbit of Earth, because he was talking over the importance of satellite number 3. And I was curious because I didn't quite understand, like, what were they talking about, the primary initiation, or are they talking about something else? But when the transmission was played, that's where it got really scary. Mars Sector 6 said that, I think this is post primary initiation of Earth, that humanity was due for another involution. Karmically was due for another involution, but the Mother Earth intervened again and said she will accept another. This is post Maldek. This is she'll intervene again and take some of that karma on again on that karmic adjustment on herself, that karmic balance on herself, to allow humanity to not have to go through that another involution. And they went on to say for that the spiritual hierarchy, the lords of Saturn themselves intervened and said, no, you cannot take on that full again. You cannot take that on again. I know I'm misquoting it, but it frightened me because we had already gone through multiple involutions, from Maldek again, Lemuria, Atlantis, the strengthening of the ring Pasnat a couple of times, establishing and the strengthening of Pasnat, and then there was another involutions, which led us to our present bodies and situation.
Mm.
So was this saying that we're due for another one, another involution? I mean, how? I didn't think we can evolve any further.
Well, if you remember, multiple times Dr. King said that that the Lords of Karma will not allow the earth to be destroyed.
Right.
So before that happened, they will evict mankind off this earth. And so if I mean, that's you know, that's the comic pattern of mankind to reach a certain height, at least the mankind here on this earth and from Meldak, to reach a certain height and then blow themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
and then come back, reach a certain height and blow themselves up again, you know. So that's been our pattern for over 18 million some years. And we constantly allow the leaders of our earth to lie to us and to lead us in the wrong direction constantly. They lie to us about everything, you know, and we continue to allow that, even though there's overwhelming evidence that it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But we close our minds and we just look, and we rather live in the fantasy of the lies that the historical lies they tell us, all the different, it's just overwhelming. And it leads man to his destruction each time, you know. So you have a lot of people out there on a lot of different avenues, exposing the lies and coming out and telling people to look twice and 3 times and 4 times to see that that the lies exist among us, and that the history they telling us is not the history. But if we don't wake up, the mass of people don't wake up, then we are led, we will probably be led to destroying ourselves again. But the difference is that the powers of be said they will not allow the earth to be destroyed. Mankind can destroy it himself, but he will not be allowed to destroy the earth the way they destroyed the planet Meldak, which is the result of the ring of the asteroid belt today.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll transcribe it and bring it back for next week, if that's okay.
Yeah, it should be all right.
There's a question here. I have been experiencing a lot of ascension symptoms, like feeling very hot and cold, and sudden surges of energy, lightheadedness, head pressure, and so on. How can I better manage it, and what does ascension mean?
Well, I tell you, is being a mystic for 50-some years is not ascension. I don't mean to laugh, but a lot of people, they in the New Age, they like using a lot of words, and they confuse people and lead people down the wrong road. First thing I would tell you to go see a doctor, since I'm a former medical student and medical profession. But ascension is something totally different from this. Ascension is when when you break the wheel of rebirth and you no longer have to be born again. And it's when you move above adeptship, above mastership, and you become an ascendant master. You become an avatar, and then an ascendant master of this earth. So you're not feeling ascension. You know, now I don't know what you're feeling, but I would first see a doctor. You know, if it's something psychic, sometimes psychic vision or psychic things cause headaches. It causes surge. It causes heat and cold. It causes those things from the psychic energy. If you're doing psychic practices or you're going through some type of psychic episode where your where your astral senses and the physical senses are beginning to merge and cause you to hear, see, smell uh, things on a super level for the basic realms of existence of this physical plane. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions, comments, or follow-up questions? I say yes, thank you. Is there something I could do to better manage it?
Like I said, first check with a doctor. Second, get into deep breathing practices, prayer, mantra. Those things help to control psychic energy. That's if it is psychic energy, and and then also read and study the teachings, metaphysical teachings. If you really want to know what ascension is, the Their Society have a excellent book on called The Nine Freedoms. I think it's chapter 6. They have which is the freedom of was ascension, and in the sixth freedom, it describes someone that actually went through ascension, and that'll help. And the book explains a lot of basic metaphysics. Also, 14 lessons by Yoga Ramacharaka, which is the ABC of metaphysics for this modern time. And they have a series of books that can explain things, either science of breath. The Their Society released one of the best books on pranayama, which is Contact Your Higher Self Through Yoga. It's easy to understand. It gives you six deep breathing exercises to help you expand your mind and merge your senses together. And then to better understand that, there's a Science of Breath by Yoga Ramacharaka that gives you a lot of detailed information on the science of breath of pranayama. And the Yoga Ramacharaka books is free on our website, mysticknowledge.org. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions? Look like it. So last class, I had, as I was reading through the information on the sabda bodies and the 4 aspects of sound, we mentioned the 4 aspects, and we also mentioned the 7 dimensions of creation. So briefly, I wanted to follow up with that, those couple of comments. I did mention, we didn't go into that discussion the last time, but I did reference the lectures by Dr. George King, in which these 7 dimensions of creation were given, as well as the lectures as the 4 aspects were given. And there is also some classes that Nehemiah did in the past to shine more light on the subject of the 7 dimensions of creation. So I pulled up some notes. I believe this class was at least these notes were drafted in late 2000, but I don't think the class in which this notes were specifically given is on YouTube, because I don't think I was around at that time. But I know there's other classes that Nehemiah has done, and particularly if you go back to the playlist titled The Teachings of Dr. George King, there's a discussion on the creation in there, and other lectures, previous lectures that Nehemiah's given, he goes over the subject as well. But I did want to share, or at least read through these notes. Muted myself by accident. There may be a more recent write-up on this. If there are, then I will find it and prepare it for next week. But for now, let's take a look at this one, this discussion of 7 dimensions of creation. It's about 4 pages and 3 sets of tables, so I think it should go rather quickly. But even though taking a look at this, at this discussion of 7 dimensions of creation, it's maybe confusing for some of you. Don't worry, that's okay. You can still post any questions or ask any questions or comments you have, either on this subject or on any other subject that you're curious about. It doesn't necessarily have to pertain to this particular subject, 7 dimensions. We'll answer those for you. Before I start this, let me show you where you can go on the Atheist Society website and download the actual lecture given by Dr. George King on the 7 dimensions of creation. Let me just find it really quick. Here we go. So if you go to aetherius.org, and if you see on your screen there, that's how you spell it, A-E-T-H, oops, sorry, just a pause. Okay. Should be on your screen now. There we go. Aetherius.org, Aetherius Society, under the shop link. Use audio download or audio CD. There is a recording or lecture there called The 7 Dimensions of Creation. You can go and pick this up. I still prefer CDs, but the download is just as good or even better because I think they'll give you a link where you can download it immediately and start the sitting as opposed to having to wait for a CD to be delivered. You can download it, listen to the lecture, and if there's enough interest, I'll ask Nehemiah if we can post these. Actually, no. This is from 2013. I actually worked on it. So maybe we did do a class on it and I was around. You can listen to the lecture and with the notes that you might put together for it, go back and forth and help you better understand the subject. Then you can come back and ask any questions you may have about it. So here's where you can actually pick up the lectures, 10 minutes of the creation. They cite a website. And we'll move into the notes with this discussion. But before that, Breland said you have a question, so go ahead and ask your question. Okay. His question said, I have a question about connecting with deceased loved ones. Is it okay to connect with them in yoga?
Yes and no. There's always the yoga is taught to look at things in a practical way. If a person have left this earth and you want to connect with them for emotional reasons, then we would tell you to kill out emotions. Like in the yogis say, kill out emotions. Then in the next breath, the yogis tell you to embrace emotions. So what does that mean? That means that one of the main reasons we're here on earth is to serve each other. So the right way to you have to connect with deceased someone who have moved on to the subtle realms and waiting for their rebirth, and they might want to expand a certain teachings or give something out to the world, then you connect to them with like that, but just for pure emotional sake to make you feel better, no, not necessarily. And because that only hinders your development. Once you go through a certain experience, you go through that experience and you take the fruits of that experience and move on. To linger back and try to recreate those experiences by connecting with someone who have moved on, and now they have a different set of lessons to learn and different experiences to go through, on whatever realm of existence they're on, uh, by you pulling on them, it's may not be necessarily correct.
So he goes on to say, are there any techniques for seances? My sister just passed. Oh, sorry for your loss, Breland.
So yeah, sorry for your loss. Uh, there are, but I don't recommend seances. I have seen them. In 30 some years ago, I actually sat in different seances. Uh, there's very few people that can control the seance and have the right people come to you. Majority of times is someone on the other side just taking advantage of that person's and just feeding off of their energy. Is not the real people coming through them. Um, so I don't necessarily subscribe to that. Uh, it's best to let them move on. You can send them energy to help them move on. Uh, if you want to call me, I'll give you techniques for that. But yeah, so it's best to stay away from that. And once again, sorry for your loss.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Again, even as we are reviewing these notes, feel free to ask any questions you may have. And we'll, from time to time, we'll glance over the chat and we'll get those answered for you. The 7 dimensions of creation. The actual quote that was given to Dr. George King is as follows. It says, the divine will imposes those conditions upon the mind as directed motion in a time frame of length, breadth, and height. So again, that's will, mind. The 7 dimensions is will, number 1, mind, number 2, motion, number 3, time, number 4, length, 5, breadth, 6, and height, 7. And everything exists within at least those 7 dimensions. When I first heard the above statement from His Eminence Sir George King some 20 years ago, describing what the 7 dimensions were, I knew that this was superior knowledge because of his ability to give such complex wisdom in such a simple fashion with precise clarity. I knew his contact with the cosmic master had to be more than real. This above statement unlocks the deeper meanings of the ancient knowledge of creation and describes the forces of creation by clearly showing the 7 dimensions used to bring manifestation into being and the dimensions that holds manifestation in existence. The following several paragraphs show how the brief explanation given by His Eminence Sir George King on the 7 dimensions of creation brings about great clarity to understanding the mechanics of the ancient East Indian philosophies on the beginning of creation. Let us briefly examine this ancient concept of the beginning of creation. God spoke the word, and the word was God, and creation was formed. The word was a sonic vibration released from the absolute God, which made its impression on the universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy, prana. The word was God, because God is all and all. For all things come from and is contained and maintained by God. It is said that the first word spoken could only be an expression that gives the name to the one life, the absolute. And this word contained the expression of the divine will of God. This universal mind substance is a static force of endless potential that has an unlimited source of all power in a state of complete static. When the Absolute released the word, a sonic vibration, it had a rippling effect upon this universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy. This rippling effect caused a chain reaction of directed motion called creation. The sonic vibration was the great word that contains all sound and words, the greatest mantra known to man today. Within the word mantra is the root word man, which means to think. The great mantra released by the Absolute contains the thought configuration for all creation. Mantra is the force or power that activates the universal mind and cosmic energy into a state of manifestation called creation. Creation is a result of a sonic vibration being placed on the universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy in a framework of divine law and time units to produce a manifestation of involutional and evolutional in a spiral effect of cosmic matter from the micro level to the macro level and vice versa. In other words, in a time frame of length, breadth, and height. In the beginning, when God spoke the word and creation came into being, the spoken word was the divine will, the seventh dimension of creation. When this spoken word created a ripping effect on the all-pervasive mind and prana, which was in a state of complete static with endless potential of power. This ripping effect of the divine will of God imposed its creation, which is the word, a divine sonic vibration, on the mind, which is the sixth dimension of creation. This ripping effect of the universal mind is that force that placed into being motion, which is the fifth dimension of creation. The continual manifestation brought about by this ripping effect is done in a time frame of length, breadth, and height, which is the fourth, third, second, and first dimensions of creation, respectively. Okay. So there's a table that breaks down, summarizes the 7 dimensions of creation. First, we have divine will. A spirit invokes the law of karma. And that's the Shiva. We have mind, which is soul manifested by the law of karma. That is the Nada Shakti and the Shakti principles. Then motion, prana influenced by the soul, enacted by the directed will of the spirit. Shakti as Mahabhutas. Then time, the manifested mind and vital energies Wait, did I miss one? No, yeah, forward time. Manifested mind and vital energies set in motion by the soul in a time frame of karmic pressures. That is the cycles of pranas and the formation of prana under karmic pressures. 5, length, manifested subtle and physical vehicles of expression for the soul, the formation of karma under karmic pressures. And then breadth and height as well as are manifested subtle and physical vehicles of expression for the soul, and the formation of prana under karmic pressures. Now we'll go into a further discussion. There's the table after that. Yeah. So following is a brief explanation of the 7 dimensions of creation. 7, divine will. This will is the directive from the intelligence manifested from the spirit as the soul. This will cannot be measured at this level, but imposed its power on the universal mind substance that can be measured through its activity. 6, mind. The mind we speak of here is the universal mind substance, which is the static potential of the absolute God, being manifest as the universal power of intelligence that permeates all manifested matter on all realms of existence. It is the background mental energy for all manifested matter. It is the all-pervasive mind energy used to mold and shape all matter, and is used by the soul to create the limited fields of consciousness it uses to bring about involution in order to move through evolution. This mind energy is that power the soul uses to mold the Shakti power of the universe within the karmic framework of the divine laws. Mind can be measured by and through its capacity of performance. 5, motion. All motion is directed motion brought about from the power of the sea of mind energy being awakened by the will as directives from the absolute through the soul to bring about involution or evolution. This motion is the manifested tension placed on Shakti power to mold it into the many forms it must take in order to bring about creation. Motion is an aspect of mind in operation. It's the active manifestation of Shakti power out of the endless static potential from the absolute or God via the soul and universal mind substance. This motion runs in cycles, dictated by the all-pervasive karmic law that brings about the next major dimension known as time. Of course, motion can be measured on many levels of operation. Before time, this 4th dimension is a measurement of time, which is brought about by the karmic pressures exerted from the will imposing conditions on the universal mind substance as directed motion. The directed motion molds and shapes the great Shakti power into cycles of operation, which creates a consciousness or an awareness of time. Number 3, length. This is the 3rd major dimension, which gives us the measurement specifications of the distance and time cycles within given points of distance of durations of operation. This is related to the soul's vehicle of consciousness, conscious, subconscious, and supra-conscious mind. All the vehicles of expression, auric, mental, etheric, astral, and physical bodies. Number 2, breath. This is the 2nd major dimension, which gives us the measurement specification of the side-to-side distance, or full width of something within the manifested parameters of operation, of operation. This is related to the soul's vehicle of consciousness, conscious, subconscious, and supraconscious mind, and the vehicles of expression, auric, mental, etheric, astral, and physical bodies. And finally, we have height. This is the first major dimension, which gives us the measurement specifications of the distance from the bottom to the top of something standing upright. It's the vertical measurement of the manifested vehicle of expression. This is related to the soul's vehicle of consciousness, conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind, and the vehicles of expression, auric, mental, etheric, astral, and physical bodies. Okay. Before I move on to the last page, are there any questions or comments? All right. 7 dimensions of creation, a simple way to view this subject in our daily activities in first contact. During our daily activities throughout our lives, we view everything under this science of the 7 dimensions of creation. We do this instinctively as a rule of observation, analysis, and making a temporary or final judgment of those things within our environment or lives. Our intuitive abilities and creative nature has us to respond to objects and life forms with these creative dimensional signatures of life. Okay. Step 7 is will. So when we examine the nature of someone or something, our first instinct is to observe the will or integrity of that person, which demonstrates the force or zest for life. The expressed will of a person gives you insight on the abilities and qualities of that person, such as a doctor, teacher, mother, father, or construction worker. With the inanimate objects, the will of something is determined by the design structure, which expresses the force of will that's being imposed on the spacious forces of static mind substance that allows the design structure to work. Number 6, mind. And its keyword description is intelligence, static power, and silent power, or silence power. When we come into contact with a person, our first instinct is to probe the inner mind, knowledge, character, and mental strength, and their outer mind, which expresses intelligence of that person, of the person that was accumulated from the experience cycles of that person's life. Number 5, motion. And the key words here are speed, vitality, energy, directive power, expressed power, and movement. The motion of someone or something determines the quality of that person or thing and its operational state. All motion comes from a directed force of mind substance brought into action by its intelligent signatures of life, which can be considered the natural will power imposed on the static universal mind substance, the background force and power for all vital energies. In simple terms, we look at the vitality of the person, how a person walks, their gestures, where they talk, and how they make all manners of movements and express motion. Number 4, time. The key words here being age, their abilities, the history, and prior knowledge. When we meet someone, our first instinct is to observe that person's age, which is a direct result that comes from their time here on Earth, or the time they have put into their profession or work, craft, or performing a particular job. 3, length. Distance, time, and cycles are the key words here. The measurement of specifications of distance, time, and cycles within the given points of distance of durations of operation. 2, breadth. Keywords are side to side, distance, or full width. The measurement specification of the side to side distance or full width of something within the manifested parameters of operation. And then finally, height. 1. Distance from the bottom to the top. The measurement specification of the distance from the bottom to the top of something standing upright. It is the vertical measurement of the manifested vehicle of expression. So those are the notes that Nehemiah put together to help us better understand the subject of the 10 dimensions of creation. Again, it may seem confusing or not make much sense to you now, but take these notes along with the classes that Nehemiah has given on this particular subject matter, and then carry that with you as you move into listening to several times the lecture given by Dr. George King entitled The 7 Dimensions of Creation, and go back and forth between the notes and the lecture, the notes and the lecture, and take it with you into the silence, into your contemplations. You'll be able to gain much understanding from this teaching given to us by a cosmic master and revealed to the world through Dr. George King. So do we have any, let's see, how much time do we have? Do we have, I guess we have any further questions and further comments, or anything you wanted to add, Nehemiah?
No, not really. I mean, I wrote that long time ago, but it's I think it's in detail enough so that everyone can understand it.
Again, I would refer another tool to use, mentioned in the beginning of today's open discussion. It is the Ancient Language of the Skull, Nehemiah's first book. In that book, in the first few chapters, Nehemiah goes into great detail behind creation. And there are several lectures and handouts as well that go into great detail, both illustrating and describing that process of creation. So take those notes with you in that text as well as you listen to the lecture given by Dr. George King, and much will be revealed to you as you study these materials and all the other materials that are available for you. Are there any final questions or comments before we close today's session? I believe we covered quite a bit of material today, so I won't move into anything else. Next week, I will bring, I would transcribe, or if I can find it in a cosmic voice. No, I'll transcribe it. I want to transcribe it. I'll transcribe the transmission given by Mars Sector 6. And I'll bring that as long as some other questions I have on that material. So we can take a look at that. And if there are any subjects or issues or topics within the realm of metaphysics, mysticism, yoga, religion, philosophy, what have you, that you would like us to cover, you can bring those questions or ideas with you to the next open discussion session, or you can email it to us to give us a chance to review it, and we will come back and add that in our open discussions. I do invite everyone to take advantage of these open discussion sessions. I know we're coming up on class number 110 next time, but do take advantage of this opportunity to ask and pose any questions you may have now, because we don't know for how long we'll be able to do this. So don't be afraid, don't feel embarrassed. There are no stupid questions. We're all learning, we're all growing, and we're all evolving together. So let us learn together and continue on this journey towards our ascension, as was mentioned earlier in today's open discussion. So any final questions, any final comments? All right, if there are no further questions or final questions or comments, let us close out today's session reciting the New Lord's Prayer. Yeah, let's do that. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so, receive through their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance, your attention, your questions, and comments. Do remember to take a look at those materials that were referenced and referred to in today's open discussion. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.